11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What a fight! I think we're going to win it.
Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lascano.
And thanks to those joining me live and those who have joined me on the archive. This is the 150th edition of Hispanics, Causin, and Panic. We have the one and the only Russ Anber in the building. How's it going, Russ?
I am very good, guys. I mean, I think I'm still reeling and recovering from what has been a unbelievable 6 months. Like, I left home on January 8th to join training camp. And when I think back that now we're coming into June, That's how long I've been away for all this to finally take place. And I'm counting the number of countries I've visited in such a span of time. It's incredible. So I think I'm still reeling and on the adrenaline from it all. But yeah, I'm doing good and finally back home.
All right. And you know what? You mentioned it. If we could go back a little bit, let's say right before the first fight, the pictures came out, Fury had a cut, and fans had a lot to say, but what were you thinking in that moment? Were you like, oh, here we go? Or were you, it's like, just what were you thinking?
Eric, I'm never going to forget what happened that day in the gym. Now, like I said, I left home January 8th, went to training camp, missed being present for the Beterbiev Smith fight, which was here in Canada, right? So I went to training camp, and I'm watching the sparring's going on. Usyk's doing his last big spar. Okay, this was the last one. And as my hand to God, it was his best sparring of the whole camp. I mean, that day he hit full stride, like he was on. Never mind, he didn't lose a round. He didn't lose a minute in the round, okay? And we're feeding him sparring partners one after the other. Everything that we had been busting his balls about for the last 5 weeks, finally, it's all come together now. He's doing it all. And I remember I had my foot up on the ring. It was just a low ring, like a foot, 18 inches high in the air. And I'm leaning up there. I got a towel on my shoulder. And Nick Chichenko, who takes care of the food and takes care of all the things that Usyk needs, comes up to me and he shows me his phone and he says, "You think it's true?" And I look at it, and it was from Coppinger, and said that Tyson Fury has suffered a cut. And I said, well, he's usually pretty reliable. Coppinger wouldn't put something out there that wasn't true. I said, unless somebody doctored this to make it look like Coppinger was putting this out there,
Could happen.
Guys, within seconds, everybody's reaching to their pocket. Phones are going off. Things are just exploding. And I mean, the sparring wasn't even finished. And we kind of knew that the fight was going to be postponed and that Tyson had suffered the cut. And it was surreal, to be honest with you.
And before, by the way, we're being joined by Joe Calix as well. In your opinion,
hi, Joe, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, was Usyk better ready for that first time before it was postponed?
Yes.
Okay, you already answered. Okay.
Yes, without a doubt. By time the second one came around, it was almost we were getting a sense that he was now fed up and bored. It wasn't the same drive as the first camp. The first camp, like I said, we hit full stride, but when we were in that last sparring and going into fight, we getting ready to leave to go to Saudi, he was ready and we were all on a high and everything had gone good in camp and we had good sparring, and the sparring partners, we were really able to push them and get everything we could out of them, and he was still handling it, and we had them doing all kinds of stuff to him. And by the second camp, it was almost like, okay, we're just going through the motions, waiting for the days to pass. You know, it wasn't that same kind of energy like the first one was with everything. With everything, everybody was just kind of in a pissed off mood that we had wasted all this time, you know, and had to start a camp again, you know. So yes, the answer to that is yes. The first one was better.
Was there a lull in between the two camps? Was there a break there? How long was that break?
He didn't take a long break. I took 4 weeks, came back home for 4 weeks, and then headed back out there, and he was already back in camp. So I think he might have taken 2.5, 3 weeks before he was back in, which is tough. You know, there's one thing about going to camp when you're not in shape and having to put in 8 weeks. You know, you feel yourself getting better and you're building and building and building. But you're going back into camp now, you're already ready to go. So each day is like, you feel like, okay, I'm ready. It's hard to get that, okay, I want to improve. You're already great. You're already in great shape. He went to camp in shape.
After everything that Fury put Usyk's team through as a whole, was there hesitancy in that second training camp thinking, all right, we can go through this whole thing again and then something else will happen? Like, was there hesitancy thinking this guy may never step in a ring with us?
Listen, I've been saying this for a long time that he's doing everything he can to avoid the fight. I never want to say he you know, he's scared, because obviously he's not scared. You know, he's a fighting man, like he says, and you know, he's you know, he will fight. There's no doubt about it. But I always felt that he never liked the fight. Mm-hmm. And I think the proof of that is that he jumped into the ring after we beat AJ, you know, and that was over 2 years ago. Guys, come on, you know, it doesn't take 2 years to make a fight. And in the meantime, you fought Dillian White, Derek Chisora, and Ngannou. Mm-hmm. You know, like at some point, you don't want to make the fight. And then even with all the ridiculous amounts that he was saying, I'm going to give you 70-30, you know, and Usyk said, okay. And they're still going back and forth. You know what I mean? Like it was just crazy. So I don't think he ever wanted the fight. And every interview that I did leading up to it, I always said, I'm not going to believe it until I see Fury walking down that aisle to the ring. You know, like that's how reticent we were that, okay, this has to come true. This has to happen. And finally it did. And it did in grandiose style as well. You know, I'll give it that. It did it in a great setting, on a great night, in a great performance. You know, they call it one for the ages, and it was. And I think Usyk really proved what he could do. And his line of the week, when they asked him if size mattered, and he says, if size mattered, the elephant would be, he said king of the animals, but meaning king of the jungle, right? He said an elephant would be king. And I think the fight proved that statement to be really true.
Now, if we go back to the last time I had you on my channel, at the time, people saw Usyk going to heavyweight as like courageous. They saw it as like, hey, good for him. He's going to test himself. He's going to challenge these big guys. But I think even the odds in the first AJ fight, it kind of showed, right? Like it kind of showed like even the odds makers weren't that convinced he could overcome the quote unquote size, right? Because we're in this era of like super heavyweights. Mm-hmm. And you did mention at the time, look, this guy's the same dimensions as Muhammad Ali, for example.
He's not Larry Holmes.
Yeah, Larry Holmes. So do you think, because to a lot of people, this was bigger than just an undisputed fight, which is already big. It was kind of like answering these questions, these debates that people have been having for a while, like, could an Ali compete in today's era? He would be too small for these bigger heavyweights. You know, to me anyway, it was bigger than that, because it also showed, to me anyway, that even though Usyk's Usyk and it's his accomplishment, it's not Ali didn't come back from the future or something like that. But I think it does show that a lot of these greats could have competed in this era. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, no doubt in my mind, Eric. As a matter of fact, the only guy that I think would have given trouble to the previous heavyweight champions in terms of his size is Lennox Lewis.
Hmm.
Lennox was like a small guy in a big body. Okay, he could punch. He had good skill set because he learned to box before he became a heavyweight. I knew Lennox since he was a middleweight, you know, and he learned that word, and he was complete, even more so than the Klitschko's. The Klitschko's, as dominant as they were dominant because of their massive size and power. They just, well, boom, the right hand, well, boom, the right hand. But they were susceptible, and they got hit, you know, and got hurt. So I think the fighters of our era, the Larry Holmeses of the world, the Alis, all those guys, I think they would, because they were so skilled, they were powerful and skilled, would have found a way to handle those big guys. Lennox would have been a problem because he had the skill set and the size to go with it. And I think that, you know, Usyk proved with Fury that in Fury's case, I think a lot of Fury's success comes from the fact that he's 6'9", 260 pounds. Very agile. He's not lumbering, agile, slippery, you know, difficult to hit. But he got where he is because of his size. Bring him down to, you know, 6'2", 6'3", regular size guy. I don't think he has the success he has now.
Okay.
I want to go back to actual fight night. There was a cut in that fight. How worried were you when you saw that cut? Did you feel like it's something you could handle easily? What were you thinking as that cut happened for Usyk?
I'm glad you noticed that, Joe, because nobody else seemed to notice.
Exactly.
Nobody mentioned it.
Nobody was talking about it.
It just became a non-factor. I think that's why.
Yeah, it was. And thank God. Listen, it wasn't nearly, I mean, I wasn't worried about it at all. You always worry. Guy comes back to the corner, and Usyk came back to the corner pointing to his eye, right? And no one saw it in the round. He just comes back to the corner. I don't have my adrenaline, nothing ready. So I just get the pressure on it right away. I dried it, you know, put the Vaseline, and it stopped. You know, it was good. And it never became an issue, like you said. It wasn't nearly as bad as what, but it was early, though, but it wasn't nearly as bad as the cut against Anthony Joshua. The cut against Joshua came right up, well, it was on this eyebrow, came right up in an opposite direction, right into the crack, you know, into the crevice of his eyeball, you know, came all the way up. That was bad. That was a bad cut that took a lot of stitches. And luckily that, again, also, no one mentioned it. They didn't care. It was a bad cut. This one wasn't as bad. I think he took 4 stitches. It wasn't as bad, got it under control. And the fact that he wasn't getting hit, you know, helped as well. You know, there was it coagulated and really never caused an issue. As a matter of fact, as the fight wore on, I tended to it even less and less because it had stopped bleeding, and I was just putting Vaseline on top of it to make sure that everything was okay. But it had pretty much stopped bleeding on its own.
Explain to people, what's the process when you see a bad cut and a fighter comes back to the corner? What immediately are you going into as the cut man?
The first thing I want to do is I want to dry it as quick as I can. You know, that's the first thing I want to do is dry it, get pressure on it right away, get the adrenaline on it. I only use adrenaline. I don't use anything else. That's what I learned with. That's what we use. And, you know, just get the pressure on it, make sure it's dry, and then put the Vaseline on top. It's not rocket science, really. The secret to doing that is being able to do all of those steps in a very short period of time while all hell is breaking loose around you, right?
While your hands are, you don't want your hands shaking and all this
stuff.
Yeah,
you know, and you got to make sure you do that. And at the same time, you've got to cover the rest of the face with the Vaseline as well. And if you've got a good assistant in your corner, he might pick up do something that I would have normally done, which would be get the cold towel on his neck, wipe his face down, that I can't do right now because I'm dealing with that cut. So there's a couple of things you have to deal with at that time. That's the tricky part. The dealing with the cut in and of itself, if you do it right, there's only a few things you can do, and you just got to do them right to make it work. There's not much more, you know. It's not rocket science. It's really quite basic and simple, and that's the way I learned. That's the way I was taught, and that's the way I still apply it today. And the one thing that's most important, I'll tell you this, guys, the one thing that's most important And it's something that I stopped being. I'm 45 years in the game. So let's say 44 years ago, I stopped being a fan when I'm in the corner. I'm not a fan anymore, okay? I'm in there to do a job. I don't yell and cheer. I don't jump up and down. I don't go crazy. Of course, you're happy when you win. But when it goes in there and I'm everything, the crowd's going nuts around us. Usyk comes back to the corner. I get the grip. Boom, boom. Okay, put the Vaseline on. Okay, give him a tap on the chest. Out he goes. I'm just handling and taking care of my guy. I'm not a fan.
So there's something else that happened in the corner. Obviously I saw some other interviews, so I know you're aware of it, of the conspiracy that there was an inhaler, all that nonsense. So obviously we all know that was dumb, right? I mean, look, there's a lot of good that comes to social media. There's a lot of bad. That's one of them, right?
Yeah.
So first, like the cross itself, like, you know, he has to kiss the cross. Is that like something you kind of know he will ask for? Has he done that before?
Yeah,
Or
like he wore it into the ring. If you look at his uniform, I wish maybe I could. I don't want to have to go through pictures of trying to find it. But his green outfit with the hat when he's walking. If you stop it, you'll see the silver cross in the middle, and he gives it to to Yuri, his trainer, in the ring. I kissed the cross before they took everything off. You know, kissed the cross. We took it all off, and he put it there, and then. He just has an outstanding faith in him. You know, it's his belief is really strong and founded. You know, it's not fake. It's not just when he feels like saying it. It's a deep faith in Christianity that he has. He's an Orthodox Christian, and you know he believes it. And all he did was ask to kiss the cross, and you know that just whatever way you can find spiritual strength, whatever things that could motivate you to go is going to go, and that's what he did. And me, I'm like from old school. When he came back at the end of the 10th round, I slapped him on the chest real hard. I said, 2 rounds to undisputed, 2 rounds to, you know, the boxing. I put my best Angelo Dundee that I could give him, you know, like 2 rounds, you know. But he thought about kissing the cross when he needed to find strength. So, and it's a little bit insulting, you know, that you turn around and accuse such a fine man, you know, of cheating, you know, and you're just making it up. And the worst thing about it is that the people who want the clickbait, they're jumping at that. No, it's not. Nothing is founded. No one looked and saw video evidence of him taking something, you know, taking some pills. You know, there was nothing. You just say it, and it becomes clickbait, and it's all over the place. And it happened. This is like the second time this has happened. Because when he fought Dubois, you know, we win, everything's great. We're in the dressing room, everyone's recovering, feeling good. So, okay, guys, time to go to the press conference. We go from celebrating, you know, a win, walk into the press conference to a conspiracy from the British media that this was a low blow and he was knocked out. And so, what the hell happened in the time we left the ring? You know, like, how do you not see that? So even when there was visual evidence that this was not legal, they still turned it around into clickbait, you know, and they did it again this time. And it's sad. Like you said, Eric, you know, there's social media can be for good or bad. And rest assured that in anything in life, when you come up with a way to do something that could be good for someone or for people, someone will find a way to make it turn it into a bad.
No, for sure. And like, obviously I remember when he won the first fight with the AJ, he even like wore that shirt. It was like a Christian shirt that he had. So it's pretty obvious that his faith is very. Is that something very important to him?
It's on his gloves as well. The Christian emblem is on his gloves as well. And if you watch the fight, he kisses it in the fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That fight as well. So
if you had going to talk to me about that, I'd have brought the gloves and showed them to you.
An interesting thing happened in that fight, and y'all aren't paying attention to this. Obviously, you're busy, but those of us watching and who bet, after the 7th round, while that's happening between the 7th and 8th round, that's when he kisses the crucifix. But as that's happening, most of the unofficial scorecards have Fury either up 5-2 or 4-3 in rounds, and the betting odds flip all the way to Fury a 10-1 favorite
10-1,
at
yeah.
that point. And I see you guys and you're calm in the corner as this is going on, but was it surprising to you guys, or was it just you felt like you had control all the time? But was it surprising that it took till the 8th round to get to Fury, or was that respect always there that no, Fury's a great fighter and it's going to take some time to unpack this thing?
Again, I did an interview with my local Montreal station that I work for. Did it on Friday after the weigh-in for the fight Saturday, and they asked me what did I think of the fight, and I said this is the first time that the heavyweight championship of the world will be contested for 6 rounds. And the guy says, "What do you mean 6 rounds?" I said, "This fight's going to play out, and this is not a lie because you can. There's video proof of this. You know this exists. You know." I said, "This fight's going to play out between the 6th and 12th when the fight is going to be decided, even if we lose the first 6 rounds." Now that said, I don't think we lost the first 6 rounds. Okay, as a matter of fact, I think Usyk easily wins the first 3, maybe 4 rounds. You could throw a couple in there, you know. 5, 6, and 7, I give to Fury clearly. I have absolutely no quarrel. The Latino judge, I think, had the best card except for the last round. I think he had the best overall card. I think we're even in those 3 rounds that we lost. I felt that we were making the fight. I felt that Usyk was forcing Fury to fight at a pace he didn't want to fight. He was forcing him to expend the energy, and Fury was throwing hard shots. It drained him. And right after that 7th round, 5, 6, 7, the 3 he wins in a row, his volume dropped incredibly. So even like for us, even in the corner, Fury's loading up and throwing. Yeah, he's throwing, he's landing some body shots, but Usyk is still pressing the action. The little guy is still making him work. And sometimes you lose rounds in boxing, but you're winning the battle, you know, and that's what I felt in the corner. I never felt that was dangerous because I felt that we were making Fury work as hard as he was working. It wasn't him who was choosing that. We were forcing him to work that hard. Yeah.
Well, just to be transparent. So for me, have
I not been?
No, for sure. You have for sure, but for me, so this is how I scored it. I know there'll be a disagreement, but just to be honest, so I scored the first 2 for Usyk. Round 3, I thought was very close. I did score for Fury. I did get 4, 5, and 6 to Fury. I felt 7 was close, and after round 8, it was all Usyk for me. Yeah. Right. So I did score for Usyk. Round 9 was. Obviously, nothing has to be said about round 9. I felt probably should have been stopped. I mean, but the rule says if you're leaning against a rope, but how often do refs not stop it there? I mean, I actually rewatched the Tyson Holyfield one. It was very similar, and the ref stopped it in that situation. But now, I'll be honest with you, Russ. After round 6, now I don't know Usyk like you know Usyk.
Of course,
right? Like I don't. I'm just a spectator. I'm watching round 6, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh, it's not looking good for Usyk right now."
A lot of guys thought that, yeah.
Yeah, and the odd makers agreed with me because it shot up 10-1. And round 7, I felt like it looks like Usyk's coming back here. And then round 8, he busted up his nose, and here we go.
8 through 12 was a beatdown. It was a beatdown.
Yes, it was.
That's how I saw it. Yes.
Yes.
Well, here's where I'll Eric, I advise you go back and watch your rescoring again. And what I'm seeing, what I was seeing from the corner, Fury doing a lot of stuff. Oh, this, moving. Flicking. Watch what's landing. Watch what's landing.
Not only that, Russ. Not to go ahead.
I said when Usyk landed, that straight left to the belly, straight left to the head. There was you could have been in the furthest seat in the stadium. You see that land. Usyk was a victim of what I've always called Juan Manuel Marquez. Juan Manuel Marquez was so good, so subtle in his boxing science that the people judging him weren't good enough to understand how good he was and didn't give him credit, okay? And if you go back and watch it, Eric, and you're objectively just watch how much Usyk is making him miss, what he's picking off. And when he lands clean. Give it all that, and let's say at best it's equal. Who's pressing the fight? Who's the aggressor in
It
the
was
fight?
Usyk for sure.
So how do you score it for Fury in those early rounds? Then how do you turn around and give it for Fury? And if you want, Joe, I'll get to you. I'll let you answer the question. Don't forget it. If you don't want to do that, go back and watch the 12th round and tell me how 3 judges scored that round for Fury. It's absolutely impossible to score that round for Tyson Fury. He had a few moments, but he didn't have as many moments as Usyk had over the 3 minutes. So sometimes I think that judges, for whatever reason, like to keep a balance of flipping rounds back and forth just to say they want to stay close and not piss anybody off and make it one-sided. That if he didn't beat you up as bad as he did in this round, like he did last round, maybe the other guy won the round. That's kind of the thinking, and I don't like that. You know, you go back and watch it and come back and tell me if you thought Fury won that 12th round. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry, I cut you off before. I didn't mean to.
Well, I gave Usyk the 12th. Yeah.
No, I was going to say it's 2 things. I want to piggyback off what you said. It's comparative rounds. And I'm with you. I said it after the fight, 11 and 12. I don't see how you score those for Fury. But also, I think there's something going on. I mentioned this after Lomachenko versus Haney. Professional boxing should be about effective punches. And one thing that was noticeable between Fury and Usyk, and that's why I didn't have it close. I had 116, 111 Usyk. I had 1, 2, 3 for Usyk. I scored 4 through 7 for Fury, but everything else was Usyk, early and late. But to me, they're scoring almost amateurish at times. I felt when I was watching Lomachenko Haney, I don't know if you felt this way, but I'll just throw it out there. I've told Eric this before. It felt like Lomachenko was Juan Manuel Marquez. Once again, he's conceding the body punches so he can continue to land the straight left. That's his money punch. And he's landing the more effective punches. Haney's body punches are not affecting Lomachenko because Lomachenko continues to throw and come forward. And that's how I felt watching Fury Usyk is Fury's landing points. He's scoring points, but they're not effective the way Usyk's punches were effective. Usyk was sitting on his punches. They have meaning. They have purpose behind them. And I felt like Fury, he got in his bag a little in the middle rounds to where he does this thing where he throws some jabs. He'll start to do his thing. Yeah. But after that, there's not much going on. And that's how I felt. I have the same frustrations as you. It just feels like there's a lot of comparative scoring and a lot of amateurish scoring as well.
Yeah, I think there's been too much in boxing now that we've become immune to it almost, that we don't even remember how many bad decisions we see and how many bad scorecards we see. Everyone's going to say, well, the right man won the fight. But that's not the point. One judge saw fit to score it for Fury. You had to find 8 rounds for the guy to give him the fight because it's a 2-point round in the 9th. How the hell do you find 8 rounds for this guy?
Well, it's still 7. Well, it would still be 7 rounds. But I still don't see 7 rounds, though.
I'm sorry?
I still don't see 7 for Fury. I can't see more than 5.
Yeah, 7.
So.
No,
that's right. No. That's what I'm saying. But one judge gave him the fight. 3 judges gave him the last round. So
there's
something wrong there. When you're doing that, there's a malaise that's not healthy. What happened to Lomachenko has damaged his life, his legacy, his history, the history of boxing, the division forever. He's been probably too old to make it back to undisputed again in the lightweight division, and they robbed him of that. And if you took a poll of 10,000 people, 9,000 people will tell you he beat Haney. You know what I mean? Like it was pretty obvious. With no disrespect, it was pretty obvious.
It was so bad, Russ. One of the judges gave Haney, I believe it was round 10, where Loma just beat the living hell out of him.
Yeah,
that's literally impossible to give it to Haney.
Yeah.
One of the judges gave him that round.
Yeah.
I don't. It's impossible. I don't know one person that could possibly give him that round.
It's sad. It's sad.
But You're right. Ukraine
Russ.
should have 2 undisputed champions right now.
Yes.
quite frankly.
They
Yeah,
should.
and it's sad, and we just see it so much that we become oblivious to it. Judges are not responsible or accountable for their scores, and they should be. You know, if a cornerman does a bad job or breaks the rules of the athletic commission, they could be suspended, they could be fined. You know, they could lose their license. Or who judges the judges? Why is their score not having to be accountable to say, this is the way I scored it, this is how I saw it, sit beside a video, say, look, this, I saw this. And when you see you can't be accountable for it, there should be some kind of repercussions to say, well, you can't judge then anymore.
What do you think about, like, and we've been saying this for years. I've been saying this for years. So the fighters just fight 12 rounds. They go through war. They're bleeding. They're sweating. They're and they still got to do interviews. The trainers got to do interviews. Everybody gets interviewed, but the judges don't get interviewed.
No, and not allowed. And we saw that in the second Joshua fight, where one judge gave the fight to Joshua, and the British media cornered him. I think it was Feldman, if I'm not mistaken. Feldman? And they said, and he said, "How did you score? How did you score the fight?" And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. You'll have to talk to my supervisor." Okay, but your supervisor didn't score the fight. You scored the fight. If I believe, like, I'll argue here that I don't think we lost the last round. I don't think we lost this round, blah, blah, blah. I'll argue why I think we didn't. If you believe in what you said, you should be able to stand behind it and give your understanding of why you scored it that way. The fact that you can go silent and not be accountable just seems wrong in this day and age. Seems wrong anyways, you know, at any time. That a referee has to be responsible for what he does.
That's right. Russ, in your opinion, do you feel Usyk was robbed of the knockout in round 9?
Look, I don't. You know what? I think time was against him. Okay. I think Mark did a good job in giving a champion every chance he should get.
I agree.
If you're going to go, you got to be gone. Okay, I'm not going to take it from you. Okay? Could he have stopped the fight when he fell into the ropes? Could have, or he could have just let it continue and let Usyk attack a guy who had fallen, you know, off balance, which it could have happened in the center of the ring where the guy's off balance and looks like he's about to go down, and the opponent could still hit you. He'd be in his rights to do so. He could have let that happen, but he didn't. So he decided to go with the knockdown, call it a knockdown. I think for me, if I had to, you know, if we're picking that shit out of pepper here, to me, I think the after the 8 count came another 8 count of lift your hands up. He didn't lift his hands up. Are you ready to go? Okay, I'm ready to go. Okay, walk to me. There was a lot of time of checking what went on after the initial standing 8, if you will, or scoring the knockdown. If you remember when Andy Ruiz fought Anthony Joshua, Michael Griffin was the referee. Joshua got knocked down. Mike Griffin indicated for him to put his hands up. Didn't ask him questions. He just said, did this, put his hands up. And Joshua left his hands by his side, and Griffin waved the fight off. You watch the fight again. Watch the knockdown. Mark Nelson asked him to put his hands up. He doesn't put his hands up. He makes him ask him again, and he shows him. Then he puts him up. Then when he shows him put up, he tells him, walk to me. You know, and then walk to me again, right? So, like, there was double question each time. So
now, Russ, obviously safety in the sport's important, right? But what do you think of, like, the process when there's a knockdown? Like, in my opinion, it's just too long. Either the guy's ready to go or he's not. It's the way I feel about it. I don't like it when it's like a sobriety test, like walk this way, walk that way.
I agree with you. I agree. And why? I'll tell you why. Because all you're doing by doing that is allowing an unscrupulous referee to cheat. If you want to cheat, you've given him the window to cheat. Whereas when it's cut and dry, 8 count. Hands up. Ready? If he doesn't put his hands up or he's not wobbling, you could just call him to box. If he stumbles as he's going towards the opponent, you jump in and stop it. The evaluation is supposed to be done during the 8 second. That's why you have the mandatory 8 count, is to determine the state and well-being of the fighter.
Right.
Not give him an 8 count for no reason just because you have to, and then evaluate his condition. But of course, you're going to have all these people who say, "Oh no, it's for the safety." And you can't argue against safety. No, you're a bad guy if you argue against the safety for boxing.
Yeah.
Well, like that's why you have the 8 seconds. Use it like you're supposed to. If the guy's unable to continue after 8 seconds and you haven't established that he can go on or not, that's your fault. That's on you because it's supposed to be 8. Box, no, he wobbles, he stumbles, you stop it. You don't have him walking, go here, go left, touch your finger on your nose, walk in a straight line. No, man.
Yeah, plus, if they're using safety, allowing someone to recover when they're not in a state to fight anymore,
So
it's not very safe.
More. No, it's not safe.
No.
That's right. That's
But
right.
what I will agree with is that because some arguments I heard these arguments, in most cases, refs would have stopped it. My counter to that was this was not most fights. This was an undisputed heavyweight title fight. So I think Fury deserved every benefit of the doubt. Maybe he got a little too much of a benefit, but still.
No, but we're not talking about whether he should have stopped the fight. He didn't stop the fight.
Right.
We're just saying how long it took to resume the fight.
I agree.
So, okay, we'll give him the knockdown. He called the knockdown. The guy's on his feet. He never left the canvas. He never touched the canvas. Another part of his body didn't touch the canvas. So technically he never left his feet. You had the time to give him the 8. All it should have been is, okay, take his gloves, first of all. You don't even have to brush him off because he didn't touch the canvas. Ready to go? Box. Now, he better get his hands up and be ready to defend himself. That's up to him. You've given him the 8. That should have been the call.
Now, some things that happened in the fight, just little details that I kind of noticed. One of them was, like, I felt like Fury was doing a lot of he was doing showboating, and I felt that was to convey control or whatever he was trying to do. And there was an instant where he's done this a lot, Fury, before, and guys have bit, and they went for it. Ali used to do this. He got against the corner. He invited him to come in. He wanted, go ahead, I'm right here. And Usyk didn't oblige. He just like, no, I'm good. What was that? The way I interpreted that, whether I'm right or wrong, you could tell me. I interpret that as, you're not the puppet master. You're not going to tell me what to do. So I'll see you when I put you in the corner later on. Like, that's how I saw it. Like,
you think you're the organ grinder. I'm not your monkey.
There you go.
Yeah.
So was that what it was? Like, because I think
100%.
Okay.
100%. And a lot of great fighters will not fall for that. Come to me. Oh, if you're hurt, I'm coming. But otherwise, nah, you come out. You come.
There you go.
So I think there was. I think this was too. Yeah. I think this was indicative, though, of the way the whole build up to the fight occurred, where Fury couldn't do what he's always done and play those mind games and mess with Usyk and bother him and all that stuff. I think that was all part of it. I think he was just trying another method of trying to bullshit his way through things, and Usyk said, nah, "We're not going to play that. Let's fight."
It just never seemed to land right, like it has with other people. Like, I remember the face-off when he was making fun of Usyk's earrings, and there were other things. And one thing I noticed the day or two before was he didn't face Usyk in the face-off like the day before or 2 days before. And then
the final
press conference, and then there was something else that happened, and I'm saying it's not delivering, it's not landing like it usually does on his opposition. It just seemed like Usyk was completely in control of his emotions the whole time.
He was, and at the end of the day, like I've always said, all that stuff that people try to do, and I mean, it's gotten to the point now where even guys who are fighting a 4-rounder have to come head to head with each other. They got to push each other. Somebody's got to say something. They all got to do this. It's like become part of the wrestling mode that's come into boxing. You know what I mean?
Right.
At the end of the day, do the statistics. 50% of the guys who do this stuff are wrong and they lose. The odds are not great, bro. Everyone talks, but half of them are wrong. So at the end of the day, the truly great fighters, are going to settle this in the ring where it should be settled. And if you guys ever get a chance, maybe you've seen it already. You can find this on YouTube. Oscar Bonavena against Muhammad Ali. And Bonavena and Ali are sat side by side of each other with the doctor in the middle. They're doing the exams, and they're both talking to each other. Not one word of profanity between them. Nobody in the crowd yelling out insults at somebody, you know, like at the other fighter from each camp up. They're arguing with each other, making jokes at each other, talking to each other, sitting this far from each other. And there's no one is even worried that something is going to happen. Go and take a look at that, and that'll help you understand where we have evolved as a sport. And look how great that fight was and how important that fight goes down in boxing history, as opposed to some of the things we see today and the disrespect that people have for one another. And we're talking about millionaires acting this way. You saw what John Fury did, right? You saw the headbutt from John Fury.
I can't even believe he was still allowed to be in the corner after that.
Well, I'm going to point out something else to you as well that you guys probably didn't notice. Go watch the telecast. Their whole side of the ring, their whole corner was empty. No camera, no nothing. They had the whole side of the ring. 5 guys in the corner. 5 guys in the corner, including their cut man. 5 guys. Go and watch it. You'll see. And they're standing all on the ring, on the side of the ring. Andy Lee is standing there, his hands on the ring. You know, they're all lined up, one beside each other. Nobody. Our corner, we were squeezed like this. The photographers on our side were three men deep. That's how many photographers were on our side of the building. Whoa. We had this much space in the corner to get up the stairs. That's it. They had all the room in the world and had 5 guys in the corner.
So you think they're trying to make you uncomfortable, like in a corner? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, I just want.
It wasn't designed for our corner. It was designed for their corner.
Yeah.
That's
What do you make of the? What do you make of the politics behind us waiting 25 years for it undisputed? This whole we talked about what Fury has put boxing fans through the past couple. As great of a fighter he is, we'll always give him credit for that. But he's put boxing fans through a lot. But the news, the rumors out there, the IBF is going to strip Usyk of his title, and now he's not going to be undisputed. Possibly, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But what do you make of that? Like, I'm seeing this. Like, how does this happen? How do we wait so long for something, and then right after it happens, it may not be there anymore, as far as an actual title?
Okay, so let's get back to what Eric said earlier about how, you know, social media can be used for good and it can be used for bad. I think all champions want to strive to be undisputed. Okay. So now forget talking about Usyk. I'm just talking in general. But there is a problem with having the so-called one champion per division, because especially in this day and age with all the money that's there, and when you have somebody like a cash cow, like Canelo, for example, you know, holding on to the one title or the 4 titles, if you will, he's basically holding everybody hostage and does what he wants. And the entire division is in limbo, waiting to decide who he feels like fighting next. There's some beauty to having the 4 world champions. There's a certain beauty to that, because it keeps the division happening. It keeps world titles happening. And guys can get chances, and contenders can get chances. And the legitimate title holders are legitimate title holders. I spoke with Gilberto Mendoza. I spoke with Mauricio. I spoke with Daryl Peoples and with Paco. You guys should organize, when you have champions, try to have a list, have your own private rankings of champions, and see how many unifications you can make. We want to see unification fights. But I also said, if a guy wins undisputed, he has 6 months to beat his chest and say he's undisputed, and then he's got to give up 3 titles. Because it's impossible to fulfill the mandatories of all 4 titles. It's just physically impossible. And right now, the super middleweight division it's criminal what's happening to the contenders in the super middleweight division when somebody like the 154-pound Charlo gets a shot at the title, leapfrogs 2 divisions, leapfrogs all the contenders that have been at super middleweight to get a shot at an undisputed title. It's not right. You know, if you don't want to defend, splinter it again so the division could have activity. And when you have that activity, now you're creating an interest because the WBA champ says he can beat the WBO champ, but the WBO champ says he can beat the IBF champ. And you start to guess who the better of the fighters are, and you say that's the fight we want to see. But
so do you think? Well, I was going to say, like, just like the champions unify and they become undisputed. Like I feel like the sanctioning body should work together, and their mandatories should fight each other, and then the winner out of that could become like the number 1 contender to the undisputed belt. I think that's a process they could do.
But the thing is, with an undisputed, though, Eric, what's the most a world champion can fight in a year? At a push, you'll get 3. At a push, if you have an easy defensive, you can't ask a guy to fight. This isn't the 50s anymore, you know, where guys are fighting all the time. These guys are collecting big paychecks. They don't need to fight all that often. So the guy's going to fight at best twice a year. So that means 2 guys a year are going to get a shot at the title. If the guy stays champion for 5 years, that means at best 10 guys in 5 years get a shot at the title. The math starts to not add up, and you start having contenders.
So are you? Do you suspect that Usyk will be relinquishing some of the belts?
I don't know what they're going to do. That's out of my weight class. You know,
But you seem to be in agreement with us that great achievement, but under the current state of boxing, not sustainable. Not realistically not sustainable, right?
Now, maybe for Usyk it could, because he's not the cash cow, so he has to kind of do whatever anybody says he wants. He's a road warrior, you know, never a spot on his soil, you know, never always been in the home, you know, he's been always the away guy, he's always been the B-side. I'm saying, like, if AJ was champion or Canelo's champion, or if it was Floyd who was champion, you know, one of the cash cows gets their hand on an undisputed, none of the sanctioning bodies want to do anything about it because they all want to collect the sanctioning fee from that main guy. You know, and you don't get that's the problem. You know, it just, we need to keep, the division has to keep active. The divisions are based on how the contenders perform to challenge the champion.
Right.
And so, but if you don't have them performing and they can't get a shot at these guys, they just sit there waiting. And it's funny, you could make a fight with 2 contenders that nobody will care to watch. But if you said those 2 guys were fighting for the title, everyone suddenly watches, you know? Or if it could be or if the title was split, okay, vacant title between these 2 guys, suddenly it becomes an important fight. Make it a regular fight, no one cares. So that's why.
That's a fair take, and I think, like for me, this is me personally. Once you collect all the belts, you're the man. Like, you don't necessarily need. I don't think Canelo or Usyk need the IBF to prove they're the man of the division, like,
or any of the associations. It doesn't matter which one it is.
Or either one, but they're the ones that are going to strip, allegedly. So that's why I'm using them as an example. My only issue, Russ, is the inconsistency of them. Right? Errol Spence fought Ocampo like 2017, and he like
5 years.
5 years. He didn't have to fight a mandatory, and as soon as Bud beat him, they gave Bud a deadline to fight his mandatory right away. Like, they didn't even let him enjoy undisputed for a week.
I know, it's crazy.
So I like the 6-month rule at least. Let him chill for the 6 months at least.
Yeah,
right?
Chill for the 6 months, then make a decision. Look at what, isn't it the 160-pound Charlo who hasn't defended the title in 2 years?
Well, they finally stripped him.
They finally stripped him.
Oh, they finally did they? Oh, wow.
He got a DWI. He had a hit and run. He got arrested, and finally that was enough for Mauricio to strip. So it is what it is.
It took that to get stripped. You know. You're right, Eric, and I think that's some of the malaise in boxing. But I think every champion should strive to become undisputed. Every champion of each organization should go after another champion, you know, in another division, and try to unify. That's good, you know, that's great. That's because then you're getting at least the best versus the best of each category. They fight each other of each division, whether it's basketball, hockey, whatever. Each division, sends their best team to the next round of the playoffs. And they play each other. That should be what boxing should be like. That these guys should have to fight the best. But once you get it all, once you gather it up, you flex, you take the pictures, you pose, you're undisputed, you're in the history books forever. Yeah. Hey, the business of boxing must continue.
Now, as far as the Usyk, the other question I had about like things I noticed was there was like a concern from a lot of fans, like, is Fury going to make it ugly and just lean on him? It's not really going to be a boxing contest. That I was going to exactly. He did try to lean on Usyk. He tried to use that tactic, and I noticed like Usyk, using his shoulder, bumping him off. He had an answer for it. Better center of gravity. It seemed like to me. Is that something you guys worked on in training camp? And what can you tell us about Usyk as far as his like? I've been hearing a lot about like Usyk will be able to handle that, and like does Usyk have any specific background outside of boxing that prepares him for something like that?
I'd be lying if I answered that. I don't know if he does or not, but I know that we specifically worked on that. And when I was taking care of the sparring partners, getting them ready, and I gloved them up, I'd say, okay, you every chance you get, grab him, lean on him, hold him and hit him. Don't hit him in the back of the head, but hold him, hit him. Do whatever you can. Don't worry. They're not going to give you shit about it. I'm telling you to do it. So we absolutely prepared for that. And I think, and let's go back to the 2.5, almost 3 years ago that we had this discussion, Eric. I told you, he's a big man and he's a strong man, Usyk. He's a strong man. And I bet that if you were to do a strength contest between the two, he might even be stronger than Fury himself. It's only the mass of leaning on him that makes the difference, but in terms of pure strength, Usyk is a strong man. And if you notice when they met each other,
when he lifted him up,
he picked him up. A strong man, bro.
Was that random, or was Usyk like sending him a message or something? Or
well, you know what? There was a definite message there. Because he was going to do it to Usyk to show him how he picked him up.
And he was like 280 or something.
That's right. And he picked him up. Yeah, man.
Now, Russ, I wanted to ask you about pound for pound, because it's a huge discussion in boxing always. Pound for pound lists are just huge. Everybody's always talking about pound for pound. So Eric doesn't put heavyweights on his pound for pound. I don't put heavyweights on my pound for pound, career heavyweights, I would say, though, because I had Usyk on my pound for pound list, high on my pound for pound list while he was at cruiserweight. So I just kept him on, right? And so he's still on my pound for pound list. But I understand Eric's argument that, and it's my argument too, that Usyk doesn't really have to worry about pound. You're the baddest man on the planet. You're the lineal undisputed champion. Like, this goes all the way back to over a century, all the way back to Jack Johnson and prior. Like, pound for pound, literally and figuratively, is beneath Usyk, I would argue. But what do you make of it? Would you have Usyk on your pound for pound, just unbiased take?
Well, just to touch on that, just to add to that, my argument is there's no man smaller than Usyk, the same size as Usyk, or bigger than Usyk, better than him.
The baddest man on the planet.
Like, he doesn't need a fictional list, is my argument.
I had this very same argument when we were doing this. We're doing something on our social media, and somebody put out, pound for pound, number one. And I said, nah, don't put that. I said, don't put pound for pound, number one. A heavyweight can't be considered a pound for pound, number one, because the whole idea of pound for pound means that if you took this fighter from another weight class and put him in any weight class, regardless of weight, it doesn't matter, that he would be able to beat up anybody in that weight class. He could go all the way to the top, and that's how good he is. When you're already the heavyweight champion of the world, there's nobody beating you. There's no middleweight coming up to beat you. There's no welterweight coming up to beat you. You're the baddest guy out there. You're the king. Everybody else, you determine on how good they are based on, well, if you move them in weight class based on their skill. So I would have to agree with you that heavyweights, sometimes it's very difficult to consider them as pound for pound. That said, the thing that I think people try to convey when we say pound for pound is it's not about your results, it's about your abilities. And it's about who has the best tools in all of boxing and who does the science better than anybody in the world. That to me is what pound for pound is. That's what defined Sugar Ray Robinson as the perfect fighting machine. Because anything you listed in boxing, he did and did it better than anybody else. That's to me the definition when we say pound for pound. So if you took somebody like, let's say, Mike Tyson, who's obliterating everybody in the division, you can't say he's pound for pound best, even though he would smoke everybody, because he doesn't have the best jab. He doesn't have the best footwork. He doesn't have the best, I don't know, defensive ability, whatever you want to call it. You say it's a very different style he had compared to a Sugar Ray Robinson, right? Or an Alexis Arguello or a Ray Leonard. There's a different look on that science of what they're able to do. So for me, whenever I look at somebody pound for pound, that's why I always thought Lomachenko was up there, because outside of punching power, everything that you could possibly need to do in boxing, he did and did it better than anybody else. Crawford could fit into that. Everything that there is to do in boxing, he could do better than anybody else. That's how you determine pound for pound, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, I've been telling Calix this for years.
Yeah, I bet. Do you think we'll get a rematch?
Oh yeah, we're going to get the rematch.
Okay.
It's already signed. It was signed before the fight, so wow. it was already a done deal. I think the question now is going to be when, how quick they're going to try to rush it through. The promoters are going to want to rush it through as quick as they can because they want the cash. But I think for the sake of both fighters, it shouldn't be something that we see till probably the beginning of next year. Because when you think about it, if you've got to go to an 8 to 12 week training camp, and get ready, if you're having the fight in December to November to October to September, they got to get back in the gym in a couple of months. And I think that might be a little quick for after having fought and prepared and all the delays and everything that happened leading up to this fight, to get the guys to get back into the gym that quickly.
So if and I'm assuming you would say when he beats Fury in the rematch, do you think, like the way I see it, it's like it's a perfect right into the sunset moment, right? It's just because how do you go from here? Like where else do you like? I just don't see anything higher than this for Usyk. It just your opinion. Do you think it will be the perfect time to ride off into the sunset?
I really do think it would be. I think it would be a fitting moment because for his age, for his size, for everything, it's going to be difficult to break the records of the Larry Holmes, of 25 or Joe Louis of 25 title defenses. These kind of records are going to be unattainable. His record was becoming undisputed champion in 2 weight categories in 21 fights. That's huge. That might never be seen again. Okay, like that's massive. And he was able to do it in convincing style and on the road. So to me, I agree with you, Eric. I would love it for it to be, the crowning moment and the retirement right after that, and leave the legacy as one of the greatest fighters of all time, and certainly the one who did it in the shortest period of time in the history of boxing. And yeah, it is amazing. And even from a personal, selfish point of view, being involved in this kind of a fight for me, I was 10 years old when Ali fought Frazier, and that was my first contact with boxing, and wow, Ali, Frazier fighting each other. And that was the fight of the century. Yeah. 53 years later, I'm in the corner in the fight of the century, right? Bro, for me, it's downhill from here on in. I mean, how does this get better for me? how does this get better for me?
You know, I was gonna ask you, Russ, because you've been in this business for a long time. You've been involved in the sport for a long time. Um, I mean, from being a founder of of Rival Gear, being in the corner of all these great fighters, trainer, cutman, you name it. Here you are in Undisputed. You were involved in a rolling year, 2 undisputed fights, right? Almost 3. So like it's does it feel like does it feel surreal, or is it just normal for you at this point? How are you feeling about like where you are right now in life?
Sometimes I feel like I don't enjoy the moment like I should, but it's because, like I told you, I'm not a fan. You know, when I'm working, I'm not a fan. After the fact, talking to you guys and reliving the moments and saying, wow, this was really a great accomplishment, or talking with friends and, they relive it and they say, yeah, we watched the fight. And I say, oh yeah, it was great. That makes me appreciate it. But sometimes I don't think I relish the moment as much because, I'll be right back I'm going to Belfast in June, at the end of June, to work with a new kid I'm working with named Jack Turner. This kid's going to be an exciting fighter. He's fighting a 6 or an 8 rounder, but I'm going to be just as excited to be going back and working with him, and being to feel like you're part of the victory, to feel like you're part of the win, whether it's for an undisputed or just a regular fight. There's always a certain satisfaction to that. And that's why I keep doing it again and again and again, and want to keep doing it. And of course, I love working with the champions, but I just as much love working with the young guys that are up and coming as well, because they bring me just as much as excitement, and I feel like I'm part of it and that they want me there. So, yeah, sometimes I don't feel like I cherish the moment enough because it's work and it's what I do. But in private, I'm grateful for what I've achieved and where I am, and getting a chance to talk to you guys and reliving the moments and seeing how you guys saw it. And so that's fun.
When you founded Rival Gear, did you imagine it would be at any point as big as it is now? Because everywhere I look, fighters, the world champions, some of the biggest names wearing them.
Eric, I'll tell you what. I've been selling boxing equipment since 1985. I started selling ringside equipment when Ringside started as a company in the U.S. They had just started out. I had just opened up my new gym, my gym, and I asked a friend of mine, God rest his soul, John Davenport, one of the great trainers of all time. Nobody knows about him. He had great fighters, and he was one of my first mentors. Okay, and he was the first American guy that gave me a chance. I said, John, I need a place to get equipment. He said, call these guys. I called Ringside. They sent the equipment. As soon as they sent it to me, I loved it so much. I said, hey, can I sell your equipment in Canada? They said, sure. So I introduced Ringside to Canada. But my goal of doing that was to subsidize my boxing team and my boxing gym, and to travel to tournaments, provincial championships, Golden Gloves, national championships. So we were going anyway. So I got a van. I put all the equipment in there. We get to an event. I put it out on a table, sell the equipment so I could pay for the hotel rooms and the food and stuff for my fighters. That's why I did it. I did that. That transformed into me doing that for title boxing, because after we split with Ringside, my friends who were at Ringside before went on and started title boxing, and I started doing it with them, and I just reintroduced title. And so people started to trust me of being a guy that they could buy equipment from. And I always toyed with this idea of wanting to start Rival. But the idea to do it was to subsidize my boxing career, was to subsidize my training, was to be able to go to different places, to work with fighters, to do things so I could have an income on the side, because I would die of starvation if I only relied on boxing money to come in. There's been no way I could sustain myself. So I needed to create a source of income. And I did it. But the one thing that I promised myself I would do when I started Rival was that I had to make equipment that I would be able to use in my gym, that my pros, that the best fighters I'm with would be able to use. I didn't just want to sell, lower grade equipment to fitness people and not have my own fighters wearing my brand. And so we did that. And the first guy to ever wear my gloves on a nationally televised fight was Jean Pascal. He was the first one to wear Rival. And, we've been, and it's not because, we just have we feel is a good brand, good equipment, quality. And we didn't I had no money to spend on marketing or advertising or give guys stuff or pay them. Don't pay anybody to wear our stuff. The word of mouth just went around that, hey, Rival's a good glove. They make a good quality product. You know, you buy it, it's a good price, and it lasts a long time. And that's how it went. And for somebody from Canada to be able to do that and infiltrate the world scene in boxing, that's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's. I see it all the time. I saw Amanda Serrano recently posted like something with it. Like it's even with the women fighters. So it's definitely spread around. What can you tell us about, if anything, about Beterbiev? Will he be fighting Bivol later in the year, next year? Or do you know
I
anything?
don't know the details of that because unfortunately, like I'm no longer involved in the camp
Okay.
because of my decision to not work the corner when he fought Callum Smith. So because Callum was a longtime account of mine and a longtime friend of mine, and I had worked the corner of all four of the Smith brothers, you know, when Liam won the world title, when Callum won the world title, you know, I'd worked with them. I didn't feel it was right for me to work with Beterbiev against them. So I disqualified myself from working either corner, which I think upset Beterbiev. So they're not using me anymore in the corner with Beterbiev. So that's their choice. But I needed to make that decision for myself as a man. So he's supposed to fight Bivol as far as I know, but I don't know any of the details. So I can't really give you, I know he had operation on his knee. So, but I don't know to when it's going to be postponed till.
So just as an observer, just as a, a boxing expert like yourself, who would you favor in that fight? With Bivol?
I think I still have to go with Arthur. I think Arthur has something special about him that, you know, Bivol's a very talented guy, good skill set. He knows Arthur. He knows that Soviet style of training. He understands the regime. And Arthur knows that about Bivol as well. You know, and he has solution problems that Bivol could possess with other fighters in his amateur career, in his pro career, doesn't matter. He has solved those problems. Now, we could turn around and say that Bivol kind of manhandled Canelo. But Canelo was a small guy, you know, he was a small guy that he handled in a weight class that wasn't his weight class.
5'8".
Yeah, you know, like if that, okay, he handled him.
Sure.
Beterbiev is 6 foot. Beterbiev is a monster. At some point in 12 rounds, he clips Bivol. Getting hit by Beterbiev is unlike anything a fighter ever experiences in their life. And then something happens, and once he hurts you, Bivol is like a shark that smells blood. Like he's just on you, and he's relentless. And I think we've seen that. He's shown that again and again and again in his career. So my edge here goes to Beterbiev.
Okay.
Not without problems, but goes to Beterbiev.
We've heard, and you could see it in the ring, but we've heard how strong he is. I think like he's a pretty strong guy. Like would you say he's like a lot stronger than your usual light heavyweight?
Eric, his warm-up exercises are most people's full training session.
All right, there you go.
You know, the guy's crazy. Like he trains like I can't say that I've seen anything like it before. You know, like him, Loma, Usyk. I thought I had seen everything in my 45 years. You know, I'd seen how fighters train and how they get ready. But man, these guys took intensity to the next level.
So MEW says he sees Rival gear when he walks into stores here in Australia, sports store in Australia. So it is worldwide.
We have an office there. We have office in Canada, in the US, in Vegas, in France, in the UK, and Australia. So we got 5 offices that belong to us around the world, you know, that supply that. And then those offices supply the different fight stores and resellers that sell all kinds of boxing equipment.
For sure. Calix, you had any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Guys, I wanted to show you something. I brought something that I wanted to show you, and that really means a lot to me, and I wanted to share it with you guys. On the Sunday, I got a message from Mauricio Suleiman who said, you know, Russ, can you please come to my hotel? I said, okay, let me arrange this. You know, I'm going to get a driver of where we are because we're at separate hotels for our races. I have something for you. And
Okay.
I went to see Mauricio, and he gave me this, which was the replica of that belt that they did, the
Oh,
commemorative
that's real
belt that they
nice.
did for the fight. And I
Wow.
thought that was really, really beautiful. I mean, for him to think of me and make that, and give me that, I think is really touching. So that's going to be going up in a frame or with my corner jacket, to commemorate the event. So yeah, it's my camera.
That looks really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Wow. Not
So
bad at all.
I wanted to share that with you guys.
Very nice. Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Man. Well, you can't
Well,
complain about
boys,
that. You don't have a lot to complain about right now, Russ.
No, you
no,
don't.
not at all. So it's all downhill though from here.
Not yet. I think you're still on the mountaintop. You know what I mean? But
I hope so. I hope so, boys.
Russ, any final word? Anything you want to say to everybody watching before we let you go?
Listen, I want to say thank you to you, Eric, personally, for reminding everybody of our discussion. All those years ago when I told you about Usyk, and done it a lot, but nobody seems to remember. But you remembered, and I appreciate you reminding people about that and putting it out there. That means a lot that you were listening, and I appreciated being on your show then, and I appreciate you having me back on again. And maybe we don't wait 3 more years to have me on again.
For sure, for sure. Hey, you're welcome anytime. We know you're a busy guy. We appreciate your time, Russ. You have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Joe. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you
Hopefully
too.
we'll see you on the next one as well. Okay, guys?
Oh yeah.
For sure, for sure.
Cheers. Thanks, fellas.
All
Thanks.
right, guys, that's the one and the only Russ Anber. There you go. Calix, any parting words before we wrap this one up?
No, it's just great interview. Obviously, great boxing mind, but I want to reiterate again what I've said several times the past couple of weeks, that we complain about the ills of boxing, and we've complained about things even on this show, but keep in mind that we're seeing some truly special talents right now in Usyk, in Bud, in Inoue. So enjoy it. Enjoy it while we got it. We got
Enjoy while you got her.
three great fighters that are really doing special things right now.
100%. You know what I mean? Great guy. I was glad to have him on. Hope to have him back on in the future. I'm sure we will. This is D Style Boxing, guys. Thank you for joining us in the special edition. And we're out of here. Peace.